A show of support. Why hundreds of people are voicing their concerns tonight about development plans for Lake Crabtree Park. $20,000 cash stolen.
I don't know why they would target a small business.
How the grocery store clerk says this couple got away with the money.
Winter is nowhere to be found. I'll tell you how long blue skies and warm temperatures last before our next chance for rain.
Then looming tariffs for Mexico and Canada. But what happens if they retaliate? We'll explain what you and your wallet can expect. Look at the crowd at the RDU Center tonight. Hundreds of people showed up to share their thoughts on a planned RDU development in their neighborhood. Thanks for being with us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. So the Airport Authority, they want to develop over 100 acres of land at Lake Crabtree Park. And these folks, frankly, they're not happy about it. Let's get you out there. Let's get you live to WRAL's Carly Haynes. She's at the meeting. So, Carly, packed house in there, people actually waiting outside because the room wasn't big enough for all the folks who showed up.
There were hundreds of people who showed up today, and we saw them fill this whole hallway, just showing how personal this is for people. They were on their phones watching the meeting that was happening just a door away. That whole room was filled with people waiting to hear more about RDU's proposal. This project would affect 136 acres of Lake Crabtree County Park, including the bike trails and a small sliver of the lakefront there. RDU said they want to make it an entertainment destination that would potentially include restaurants, bars, and a hotel. No offices or warehouses, they said, but some people here, they love these bike trails and they don't want to see them go. One woman whose son is an amputee said he depends on Lake Crabtree's wide bike paths.
It's already hard for us to find places for my son to ride and for other adaptive athletes to ride. You take that away and there's going to be a lot less places for us to go and to ride, so it would be awful.
And this all got started because RDU said the current lease deal is now against FAA rules. They were leasing to Wake County, but under the new rule of having to get fair market value, Wake County would no longer be able to afford to lease it.
Oh, interesting. Is this the kind of meeting where they'll decide anything? Will we know a decision tonight?
No decisions tonight. It's really just the first chance for people to comment and ask questions about it. We do know that RDU is looking for proposals right now, and they're only looking at fully funded ones.
All right, Carly Haynes, thank you.
This is Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center, getting some new information about a wildfire that we've been tracking all day in the North Carolina mountains. This is near Old Fort in McDowell County, and in the past hour, we've learned that it has now burned about 200 acres. But a little bit of good news. After being uncontained all day, firefighters now say they have it about 5% contained. Now, there are evacuations in place in the Crooked Creek area south of Old Fort where that fire is burning. No injuries at this point, and firefighters say they're really focusing on protecting homes. Also, a second fire just north of Marion, uncontained. It's burned about 2 acres.
All right, Brian. And right now, firefighters are working to put out the rest of a brush fire in Franklin County. This is a look at some of the flames. Crews responded earlier this afternoon, have since got the fire fully contained. Nearly 100 acres have burned. No word on what may have started the fire. Kat, you have been warning us about this afternoon. Warmer temps, high winds, risk of fire danger.
Absolutely. I'm glad that they were able to contain the one in Franklin County, but we've been warning you throughout the day about the brush fire risk, and please refrain from burning even tonight. Maximum winds today up to about 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts recorded for much of our area. It was definitely a windy day, warm and dry. And the combination of all those things creates a pretty high fire danger. Now, we need some rain. We've seen a moderate drought grow across North Carolina. And when you look at the past month, we've seen less than half of the typical rainfall that we would see during the month of January. We finally have some rain on the way, but it doesn't look like it's going to be very much. I'll let you know the hours. You're most likely to see rain on Friday coming up.
All right, we'll talk to you then. Thank you, Kat. Lots to talk about, like another push to stop taxing tips and a local video game company hitting pause. We got the 5 things that you should know right now. Today, a North Carolina lawmaker filed a bill in the State House that would eliminate taxes on tips and on overtime pay. This was a big talking point, if you remember, during the 2024 presidential campaign. No vote on this just yet, though the House won't start even taking proposals until the middle of next month. But we'll stay on top of it for you. 2 teenagers accused of shooting at a state trooper, I should say, are now in custody. Durham police took a 15-year-old into custody overnight and then a 14-year-old earlier today. This all stems from a chase in Orange County on Saturday when investigators say the teens shot at a state trooper. They both face serious charges now, including attempted first-degree murder. Durham police spent hours today searching for a suspect who they say jumped into a pond while trying to evade arrest. Dive teams have since left that scene. We know that. Police say that they tried to pull this man over for a stolen vehicle on Rowena Avenue when he ran into the woods and then jumped into the water. Officers jumped in after him trying to get that suspect but couldn't find him. They have not released his name. The future of the Cary Town Center Mall site is on hold. It was supposed to be the future headquarters of Epic Games. That's the game developer behind Fortnite. But the town hasn't heard from that company about any plans in about 6 months. So they withdrew the rezoning request. Epic first bought that land in 2020 for $100 million. They demolished some old buildings there on the site, but never built anything. Epic Games told WRAL, quote, that they will remain headquartered in Cary. The Federal Reserve is not making changes to interest rates for now. The decision reflects some concerns over inflation, which is above the 3% mark. The central bank wants it closer to 2%. They also said they're waiting now on some details of President Trump's trade and immigration plans.
Take a look at this video out of a store in Cary. 2 people walked in on Sunday night. On your left, one of them distracts the staff. On your right, the other person snatches thousands of dollars in cash. The store owner, as you can imagine, is devastated. Officers are searching for the thieves now. WRAL's Eric Miller has the story.
And the cameras caught it all. The couple walks into La Esmeralda Tienda around 8 Sunday evening. While one called the cashier over to ask about piñatas, the other slipped around the back of the cash register, carefully opening the drawer before spotting the lockbox filled with cash.
After we looked on the cameras, it looked clear that it was not their first time doing it.
The store's owner, Esmeralda Angel, says the theft was so quiet, the clerk didn't realize anything had happened until later that evening.
And I was just like, what do you mean you don't have it?
Angel says La Esmeralda Tienda has only been open for about a year, selling fresh fruits and vegetables, but also goods from across Central and South America. Angel says she's put everything she has back into the store.
I don't know why they would target a small business because, we work day and night just to make sure that this runs okay.
According to Angel, more than $18,000 of the stolen cash belonged to Rayo Transfer, a wire transfer company that La Esmeralda Tienda acts as a middleman for. Angel says the store will now have to pay that money back, a big bill for this small business.
We just want to make sure that if we're able to catch them, we can get justice.
Now, if you recognize either of those people from those 2 photos or you know anything about what happened, Cary police are asking you to please get in touch. In Cary, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
Pretty good images on the surveillance cameras there. So this past weekend, we went on the record to talk about property taxes in our area. Property values, as you probably know, are soaring. And for many folks, that's going to mean higher tax bills. Now, we talked about all the ins and outs of this, why home values go up, how we got to this point, how counties come up with those new values, and what you can do about it. If you missed Saturday's episode, we still have it for you. Check it out. It's on the WRAL YouTube page. I recommend you watch it. We got lots of emails about the episode. Tom wrote, "You did a great job connecting the dots for how we arrived in this new reality, as well as the consequences for the average taxpayer." Craig wrote, "I learned a lot. I'm a lifelong resident, and I never knew I could appeal property tax values." Now, someone with Wake County reached out too, and they wanted to clarify some points about the success rate of appealing your property value. It turns out more than half of the appeals do not work. only around 35% of the households who appeal manage to get a lower value. We had that figure a bit higher in the piece. We also learned that about 5% of people actually saw their value go up after they start fighting it. So imagine that you spend all the time and energy to appeal, and it backfires. You end up having to pay more. Ouch. There are some minor differences in those numbers also when you compare informal and formal appeals. Some of you had some great questions about that process, and it all starts with the informal appeal part of it. You can submit that online, by mail, or in person, telling the county how you think they got it wrong. And you need some concrete evidence here. The county does set a deadline for this after sending out that first revaluation. You should see it in your documentation. When you get the results of that appeal, if you don't like it, if you do like it, doesn't matter. You can accept it or you can double down, taking things to the state level at the Board of Equalization and Review. I know it all sounds so exciting, doesn't it? But it really is important. Check out the On the Record. If there's anything else you want us to cover on this subject, check out that On the Record. Watch it right now on WRAL.com, also on the YouTube channel. And then you can send me an email, dan@WRAL.com, and we will go in depth.
President Trump says tariffs on Canada and Mexico could take place this weekend. But what happens if they put tariffs on us right back? Up next, we're talking to a guy who understands this stuff inside and out. We're going to talk about the politics and what this all could mean for you and your wallet. Tariffs could be just around the corner. President Trump set a date, February 1st, threatening to put a 25% tariff on goods from Canada and Mexico. Now, a quick refresher here. A tariff is a tax imposed by a government on goods imported from other countries. The companies importing the goods pay the tax, not the foreign governments or foreign companies. But here's the thing. Mexico and Canada could just as easily place tariffs on the U.S. Today, Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum said that she doesn't think that President Trump will follow through and says Mexico has a plan if he does. Meantime, the guy on your screen here, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is promising a strong response from Canada.
I support the principle of dollar for dollar matching tariffs. It's something that we are absolutely going to be looking at if that is how they move forward.
Here to explain this next piece of the tariff puzzle and what it means for you, Scott Lincecum, thank you so much for being here, VP of General Economics at the Cato Institute. You practiced international trade law for 20 years, taught courses on the subject at Duke University, and now you are here to enlighten us, so thank you for being here.
Good to be back.
Okay, so let's quickly set up the importance of the export market in our country and in our state. Every year, the U.S. exports around $300 billion worth of products each to Mexico and Canada. Want to show you this. Here's how that breaks down in North Carolina. Our main exports to Canada and Mexico include chemicals, machinery, transportation equipment, computer equipment, and more. Worldwide, North Carolina exports $42 billion of products. Canada is our biggest partner, $7 billion. Then Mexico at $5 billion. So there's a lot on the line here. And if the U.S. follows through on tariffs for Mexico and Canada, and those nations respond with tariffs of their own, what should people expect to hit their wallet?
Well, if you work at one of these companies that exports goods to Canada and Mexico, well, you might be in a little bit of trouble. The last time this happened, when President Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada and Mexico, those governments retaliated. They hit not only American metals, some of which made here in North Carolina, but also agricultural products and manufactured goods and appliances. And that means less money, less sales for those companies, less output, fewer jobs. The USDA calculated that just agricultural products lost about $600 million in sales for the nation overall.
Wow. And so that did have a real impact on people.
Of course. And the other thing that people need to remember is that a lot of the things we send to Canada and Mexico actually come back to the United States as finished goods. So we make a lot of automotive goods here in North Carolina. We send those to Mexico. They get put into a finished vehicle. That vehicle gets sent back. Well, the tariffs that we put on that vehicle, well, that hurts. The tariffs they put on those auto parts, that hurts. And we all end up a little worse off.
Yeah. Why would Canada be more bullish about retaliatory tariffs than Mexico?
Well, a lot of it is political. The reality is that these retaliatory tariffs are going to hurt Canada and Mexico too, just like our tariffs are going to hurt the United States. But politics makes it virtually impossible for these governments to just sit on the sidelines. They have to respond forcefully. They might not go dollar for dollar with the United States, but they will try to hit strategic products, politically sensitive products, just like what happened last time.
We've heard many times that the threat of tariffs is really a negotiating tactic. What are we missing here? What am I not seeing?
Right. Well, we're not seeing the uncertainty behind all of this. When President Trump makes threats, when Prime Minister Trudeau makes threats, these things have a real effect on the real economy. Last time around, the Federal Reserve said this cost us billions of dollars in potential business investment because investors rightly aren't going to invest in a new factory if there's the chance that there's going to be tariffs on the goods they're exporting. You add that to the Federal Reserve. We just heard about maybe holding off on lowering interest rates because of this uncertainty, and that redounds to us again in the real world.
Is there something bigger at play here that perhaps the governments are trying to negotiate?
Well, there is the chance that they just want to get a little negotiating leverage for future renegotiation of the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, formerly called NAFTA. Now, there is a thought that those negotiations are coming up in 2026, and the governments might want to be pulling those forward, and then they're all staking out their positions in advance. We can hope that's all it is, and that we're not seeing tariffs on cars and avocados and other things coming up this Saturday.
We will wait and see what unfolds. Scott, thank you so much once again for your insights.
My pleasure.
Always great to have Scott in. All right, let's talk about this weather. This has been beautiful. Maybe it's because we had such a stretch of that cold weather that the heat up just feels, so nice.
I mean, this time last week, we were still talking about lows in the teens at night. So 72 today, quite a turnaround. I bet downtown Cary Park was packed today with people outside enjoying the nice weather. It's still 63 at RDU right now. Our west winds starting to settle down a bit tonight. Temperatures sitting in the 60s only at RDU and in South Hill at this point. 59, though, in Roxborough, 57 in Fayetteville, and 55 in Goldsboro. A cold front is passing. It passed today, and we actually see a drop in temperatures tomorrow by about 10 degrees. Here's the thing, 61 still is not bad for late January, and then we're going to see this front lift back to the north as a warm front tomorrow night, and that could spark just a couple of isolated showers later in the evening hours and nighttime hours. 61 for the high. It is partly cloudy tomorrow, not as windy, and then as we get into tomorrow night, we'll watch toward the Virginia border for an isolated shower. We've got about a 30% chance Thursday night, but Friday will be our best chance for rain. Rain chances at about 60% during the afternoon and evening, probably after about 2 o'clock and continuing through about 7 or 8 o'clock. The way it looks right now, we get in our more reputable high-resolution model data tomorrow, and that'll really give us a better look at the exact hours when your town could see rain. So check in for an update. Just know Friday afternoon and evening plans may be in jeopardy, but ahead of the rain, we still hit 70. It's going to be windy as well on Friday. Then over the weekend, it really looks pretty good. 64 on Saturday, 58 on Sunday. We lowered Sunday and bumped up Saturday's temperature. It's the Krispy Kreme Challenge on Saturday for those of you brave enough to partake. 8 a.m. it'll be breezy, 49 degrees, and by noon, 59 degrees. Best of luck to you. During my time at NC State, I never braved this one, but a dozen donuts is quite a bit before you go that distance. The Cupid Run happening in Durham, 2 o'clock Saturday. You don't have to eat a dozen donuts for this one. It should be a great day for running, 62 degrees. I mean, just beautiful weather to be outside Saturday. And Sunday doesn't look all that bad either, 58 degrees. For Groundhog Day, it's partly cloudy. And then early next week, temperatures rebound. We're right back in the 70s on Monday, upper 60s Tuesday, but there are signs that temperatures may trend back down a little bit toward the end of next week. There are not signs of another Arctic outbreak for now, like what we saw last week, though.
Okay, no more Arctic outbreaks sounds good to me. Thank you, Kat. One last thing tonight. Bill Belichick's first big change at UNC, bring back grass at Kenan Stadium. We're going to discuss the possible reason for tossing out the turf. One last thing we want to mention tonight. It looks like Bill Belichick's first big change at UNC is going to require some yard work.
Yes, Kenan Stadium is going back to grass. The field has been turf for the last 7 years. The athletic department says it decided to switch back after consulting with coach. The field will look just like it did back in 2019.
Or like it did for a brief moment in 2023. I'm not sure if you remember this, but the university actually switched turf for grass for just one game when Wrexham FC and Chelsea came to town for a soccer match. Many international soccer leagues require their games to be played on grass. The question is, why exactly?
Yeah, UNC's athletic director says the turf had reached the end of its lifespan. But based on what we've seen in NFL, there could be other reasons. For the most part, NFL players really just frankly hate the turf. The head of the NFLPA wrote an article titled, "Only Natural Grass Can Level the NFL's Playing Field."
An NIH study looked into several different sports, and they found what was, quote, a higher rate of foot and ankle injuries on artificial turf, both old and new generation compared to natural grass. You don't want to play on glass, grass. So was Belichick looking at similar data? Who knows, maybe. But the grass is coming back, and the project should be finished, they say, in the next 3 months or so.
You know when there's a turf and then there's all of those little grains in it?
Yeah.
Oh, it gets gross.
Have you ever actually run on turf?
No, I don't run.
I have, and I'm definitely not fast enough to hurt myself.
Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.